Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all well and looking forward to a nice weekend. In today's video I thought I'd have a break from the watercolour painting books that I've been working through and do something in my sketchbook, because after my art room tour I got a request to review the DERWENT water soluble sketching pencils, which got me inspired, and I'm a firm believer that when inspiration strikes you should go with it. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a review on these DERWENT water soluble pencils by swatching them out, trying a few different techniques and putting them to the test and seeing how easy it is to complete a whole sketch with them. So this DERWENT set of 6 water soluble pencils comes in a neat tin inside the outer box packaging. The tin contains 2 HB, 2 4B and 2 8B pencils, and there's also a pencil sharpener included. On the back of the outer box it says these watercolour pencils are ideal for creating expressive tonal drawings and line and wash sketches, so let's open them up and take a look. So on first glance I think these pencils look quite smart and feel pretty good quality. On the side of each, printed in white, is all the information you need, and there is also a blue band around the end to indicate that it's water soluble. Each of the 3 pencil grades is also described as being either a light, medium or dark wash pencil, so I'm excited to try them out. Before I started though, I wanted to sharpen them, but unfortunately the sharpener that comes in the tin is too small. This is an old tin though, so I'm hoping DERWENT have sorted this out by now. So with the pencils sharpened, it was time to try them out, and being that there are 2 of each pencil in the tin, I grabbed 1 of each to test, as well as a kneaded eraser and a water brush. The first thing I wanted to test was how these pencils laid down and what range of values I could achieve with them. So starting with the HB or light wash pencil, I began with light pressure and gradually increased to create a gradient. This pencil laid down really smoothly with no grittiness or problems at all. I did the same test with the 2B or medium wash pencil and repeated it again with the softest 8B or dark wash pencil. And I found that all 3 of them performed really nicely when used dry on this mixed media paper. As can be expected though, the softer the pencil got, the easier it was to deposit graphite on the paper, but I thought the range of values available did seem similar for each of the pencil grades when applied dry like this. Next, I wanted to see if being water soluble changed whether or not you could erase these pencils, so I grabbed my kneaded eraser and tried to erase 2 areas on each of the pencil swatches, one on the lighter end and one on the darker end of the swatch. I found that it was easy to erase each of these pencils, but I did notice that as you got into the darker, softer pencils, so that's the 4B and the 8B, there was a little bit more struggle to remove back to the white of the paper on the darker areas of the swatches. With that done, it was time for the fun bit, and that was to add water to these water soluble pencils, and for this I used a water brush and started with the light wash or HB pencil. As soon as I added water, the graphite almost melted to give a smooth, even wash without any grittiness or streaking. It dissolved completely, filling in the tooth of the paper just like watercolour. I was also super impressed with the colour intensity this pencil produced just by adding water. And close up you can really see the difference. I did the same for the medium and dark wash pencils, and whilst they look similar dry on the paper, when you added water you could really see a difference in colour intensity. The next thing I wanted to test was to see if adding water had changed the erasability of these pencils, and I found that although you could lift and lighten the pencil, you couldn't completely erase it. And that's maybe something to bear in mind for the sketch later on. But what you can do with these pencils is easily and effectively add more pencil layers on top of dry ones. This means you can gradually build up the colour intensity to create depth and contrast in your sketch. You can also use your pencil swatch to act like a palette, allowing you to pick up small amounts of pencil which might be useful for lighter or more detailed parts of your sketch. And if you want to, you can even apply your water brush directly to the pencil lead and apply the graphite that way. So now it's time to try out these water soluble pencils with a sketch, and I'm starting off with the HB pencil to draw a rough outline of this dalmation. I printed this picture off on my computer and I'll leave a link to the reference on Pixabay where it can be found. Why a dalmation? Well, this is video number 101. I know, grown, but anyway, because I'm drawing in my sketchbook, I decided to sketch this one out freehand. I thought this reference picture had a good range of values and contrast in it, which would really help me put these pencils to the test and see what they could do. Sketching freehand can be a bit tricky when you're sitting at a table as I was here, because it can distort your perspective, so it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it'll do for the purpose of this video, which is to concentrate more on the pencils. That said, I do generally freehand in my sketchbooks because it's quicker and it is just a sketchbook after all. I started out the sketch with the dalmatian's nose and worked my way out using the markings on the fur as a map to help me get everything in the right place. I used a light pressure on the pencil to begin with so I could easily erase and make adjustments if I needed to. With the main structures in place, I could then start to build up the values using a slightly harder pressure on my pencil, but still sticking with the HB at this stage. With this first layer of pencil down, I then went in with the water brush. When adding water to the sketch, I did notice that the brush moved the graphite around a bit and also picked some up onto the bristles, which I hadn't really noticed at the swatching stage. So to avoid moving graphite to areas where I didn't want it, I used a spare piece of scrap paper to clean my brush off before moving on to a different area. As with drawing the sketch, I started applying water to the dog's nose and the left hand side of the drawing to try and minimise any smudging, but the graphite and water mix did seem to dry really quickly, which I think is a real advantage if you want to build multiple layers, and especially if you're out and about with your sketchbook. With the main facial features activated with water, I then moved on to the spots, and even though I knew they needed to be darker, I also knew that I could add extra layers with the medium and dark wash pencils to build up that contrast I needed. Adding water to these pencils really helped make my sketch pop, and I have to say I enjoyed every minute of this drawing. These water-soluble pencils can be used like regular pencils, but adding water does add a new dimension to your sketch. I really like the flexibility and fun you can have with them, and I'll definitely be playing around with them some more in the future. These are more than just a graphite pencil, and in my opinion, the different textures you can get with them makes them ideal for both looser gestural drawings as well as the more precise drawings that I like to do. So I've talked about the advantages and the things I like about these pencils, but what about the disadvantages or the cons with these pencils? Well, to be honest, I couldn't really think of any, but I suppose that they dry lighter, and that could be seen as a disadvantage, or the fact that once dry, the graphite isn't permanent. But that could also be seen as an advantage, as if you reactivate the graphite, you can continue to work on or make alterations to your sketch. This also means that despite not being able to completely erase the activated graphite, if you re-wet the paper, you may be able to lift up areas of graphite instead. I'd love to know if any of you guys have tried out these water-soluble pencils and what you like or dislike about them, and what sort of sketches do you use them for. I'd also like to know if any of you use them with any other media, as that's something I haven't tried or tested today, so let me know in the comments box. Back to the drawing now, and with the first layer dry I went in with a second layer, this time with the 8B pencil to add in more value to the darker areas as needed. I use short pencil strokes working in the direction of the hair or fur growth, and use the water brush in the same way when activating the graphite to achieve a natural and realistic looking fur texture. Using layers is an important part of creating realistic looking fur in whatever medium you're using, as without them you don't get the same depth and fur effect, and this can be quite time consuming, but with these fast drying water soluble pencils it made the process really enjoyable. this second layer I skipped using the 4B pencil or the medium wash pencil, as the areas I wanted to fill in were really dark, so I just went straight to the 8B. This really helped to kind of establish those really darker contrasted areas, and I was really pleased with how it was turning out. That said though, I did go in with the medium or 4B pencil to just kind of outline those dark spots and blend them in to the softer, lighter areas on the outside of the spot. With that layer added, it was then time to go back in with the water brush and activate that graphite. I tried to use short strokes in the direction of the fur to try and convey the fur texture rather than doing it as a smooth, even wash. For the lighter and shadow areas underneath the dog's face, I used some of the graphite that was already down and picked it up with the water brush to try and get those really soft, lighter areas. I did this as opposed to applying a light wash pencil because I wanted them to be really light and really subtle. I then built up a little bit more contrast using a mixture of the medium wash pencil and the dark wash pencil as well, and alternating it with the water brush. I then added a few more details in using the graphite directly from the end of the pencil just to pop in some of those fine details around the dog's nose. Using this technique enabled me to leave some really light areas in between darker individual hairs to help the fur look thicker and create more depth and interest to the look of the fur as a whole. It was really fun to play around and experiment with these different techniques to produce different effects in my sketch. At this point in the sketch I had almost finished, but there was one thing that I still wanted to change, and that was the darkness of the pencil on the dog's ear in particular. So I went in with the dark wash pencil and added some more contrast to that area using again short hair strokes in the direction that the hair was growing in. And I actually like the look of the two different textures, so I decided not to add water to this part, because there's nothing to stop you using water for some areas and leaving the pencil or graphite as it is on others. I think this really adds to the texture and the interest of the piece as a whole to mix it up. I added some more detail and depth to the dog's eyes and made sure they looked really shiny. Then lastly, just to finish off and further test these pencils out, I went in with not my kneaded eraser this time, but with the Mono Zero eraser, which is a bit harder and I could apply more pressure to try and remove some of that graphite. It did work to an extent, but again it's not as effective as using it on the dry pencil. So something else that I thought might be worth trying is adding something like white gel pen for the highlights, although I didn't end up doing that in this sketch. So with that done, this piece was finally finished and I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. It didn't even take that long, probably about an hour and a half. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video and found the review helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, comment and subscribe below, and here are some more videos that you might have missed or might like to see. So take care, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!